Başladı galiba. Okay, let's start. Uh, Today we are honored to have Dr. Emre Akanak with us, and he is a PhD economist, data scientist, lecturer, and also entrepreneur with a remarkable career spanning multiple industries and roles. After completing his academic journey, Dr. Akanak worked as a business analysis, investments analysis, quant and data analyst. In 2013, he founded his first startup, and sorry for this one, but Mundanus, in the USA, where he developed predictive solutions for patients, hospitals, and the healthcare industries. Later in 2016, he launched his second startup, DeepTech, focusing on advanced analytics, including crowd behavior analysis, developing insights, and behavior analytics. Following his successful entrepreneurial ventures, Dr. Akanak transitioned into professional roles in investment and finance companies as a data scientist. Since 2023, he has been offering consultancy and advanced analytics services through his company, Akanak & Co., while also sharing his expertise through lecturing, mentoring, and coaching in the field of data science. We are truly fortunate to him here today, and I am sure his insight will be incredibly valuable to all of us. I give the floor to you, Professor.
Thank you very much. I'm honored to be here today. First of all, can you hear me well? Can you hear me good, right? Okay, good. Yeah. Okay, guys, firstly, if it's possible, I highly recommend you to open your cameras. Let's see each other, right? It could be great. And secondly, I would like to discuss with you today a little bit more about the startups, and I want to explain to you the entrepreneurship. It's a little bit different than general and traditional entrepreneurship. I have prepared you with a small presentation. I would like to go over it, but I also would like to share my experience with you. And what I will do, we will go over first the presentation together, and then I will wait for your questions and your experiences, and I would like to discuss with you also what we can do. We will discuss a little bit more about entrepreneurship concepts. Okay, I'm just opening my the presentation. I will share my screen. Okay. Okay. Step 2. Please let me know if you can see presentation. Can you? Can you see my screen? Okay, good. Okay, great. Okay, let's start today. I want to go to a little bit. I want to briefly introduce myself. Actually, I'm an economist. I mostly studied about the econometrics, explaining and analyzing social events and historical events. And meanwhile, I also worked as a business analyst, data analyst, investment analyst in the investment companies, and quantitative analyst. And I have several startup experiences. In 2013, my first startup started with when I was a student in my master degree. I built an algorithm for predicting and analyzing actually money laundering and predicting manipulations and speculations, actually understanding manipulation in the market. Then it turned out this algorithm worked for predicting potential cancer patients or cancer events. So my first startup in the United States was about it. Then we started to use the algorithms for predicting failures, market failures, and some others. Then I had another startup experience in 2016, and in 2023, beginning of 2023, January, I guess 2023, since then, I built Akanak & Co. I'm providing service to big companies, high-tech companies. I'm providing them algorithms, modeling, testing, and services. So I'm mostly providing service to the companies. And today I will share with you both a little bit more theory, a little bit theory, and mostly about how does it work in the market really, and my experience. Okay, I want to go with you a little bit table of contents, but we'll go through together. Introduction, what really entrepreneurship is, because entrepreneurship definition is a little bit not clear and a little bit gray. So I will talk with you about it. And another important thing is that important and essential parts of this in entrepreneurship to consider. Some case studies. I will advise you then some readings. I will sum up. I will take your questions and I will share with you my experiences. Okay. Please, if you have some questions, list your questions and I want to go through. Okay, let's go with an introduction. It's not difficult, it's not possible to define entrepreneurship only with one specific and single term. You need to understand that. It's not defined that. It's gray area and it's choosing your way and it's mostly very, very clear. By the way, I'm writing the context, but I will not read the slides. And you should know that if any of your professor and any lecturer is or she is reading only the slides, it's only reading the presentation, it means that most probably you will not be able to learn from him or her a lot. So I just write this so I can skip some of them. Okay, so what you need as an entrepreneurship, there are the three types of entrepreneurship. Especially until after 1970s or 80s, people start to understand and learn entrepreneurship more. They started to learn from the failures. So for the entrepreneurship, the most important thing is we need to understand why we fail, why startups and the companies fails. To understand it, to think about it, will help you a lot. You really need to think about this. You really need to consider this. And you really need to think about your own failure stories. Believe me, your own failures are very valuable, very valuable. Okay, and then standing ground. You will face very difficult situations and very difficult decisions. That's the important decision making. I will talk with you about the essential parts, how we decide, and what is the decision process, which kind of tools and instruments we are utilizing, and how we decide. But entrepreneurship really requires leadership, but you should understand leadership is more based on self-discovery, to manage yourself, not other people's. And usually most of the time, the entrepreneurs, they try to manage people around them, they fail. You need to manage yourself, not the people around you. Because in fact, in entrepreneurship projects, when you build a company, especially in startups, there is a collective management process. There's not a really hierarchy. There's not a really vertical hierarchy. Okay, let's go through together. Okay, what really entrepreneurship is? Entrepreneurship is a journey. It does not starting and ending. Even if you will make an exit, IPO, or even if you will fail, or if you will sell your startup, or if you continue your activities, it will not end. Entrepreneurship is a mindset. You need to be very sure about it. You need to understand it, and you need to think about it. Because if you are thinking that entrepreneurship is something you just start and end, it is not really working. You really, really need to understand and also which stage you are, and you need to think about how you are different than last week. You need to have a periodic evaluations. Okay, but most of the failures comes from the managemental issue because you have an energy. Your energy is calculated. By the way, there are some essential KPIs. You need to have this KPI. I don't know if you studied for the KPI engineering, but you need KPI designs. It will show you the real status. And you're basically for each startup, each entrepreneurship projects, your energy, your time, your limit is your cash divided by expenses. Expense includes salaries and operational costs and everything, because it will give you how many months you will be able to survive. We call them the survival time, survival period. So you need to build a MVP. You need to start a cash flow in that time. Ideally, in an entrepreneurship projects, it's at 24 months, which means that you need to have on the side minimum 24 months a cash. So you need to know that. So your expenses times 24, so your monthly expenses times 24 will give you generally a starting point. So this is the amount of money you need to. So you need to know that if you will, it's a bootstrapped or leveraged. Bootstrap is you have your own sources. Leveraged means that you have an investor. And actually, it is important to notice and consider and know in which part of you you need to take investor, how you need to limit them, and actually what is the negotiation process. There are many details. I don't want to go through this, but you need to really consider the formulations. Okay, I will go to important and essential part. I will talk about the 8 important essential parts slowly, and I really ask them to consider. Okay, the first one is action, from idea to business. Actually, every entrepreneurship starts with an idea. Idea does not need to be unique or innovative. Actually, making simple and similar things is also entrepreneurship. But you need to have some sort of innovation because you need to get a position in the market. And innovation does not mean or require always technology, only technology. Innovation means that you can do something different than others too, also methodological too. If you produce a service or product or anything cheaper than others or more effective than others, or you do something better, it's also kind of innovation. So there's several types of innovations. There are technical innovations and there are managerial innovations. But you need to think about that and you need to have your own way to do that. And another thing is that you need to know that you need a good idea, but it doesn't mean that every good idea will survive. So you need to know, you need to test your idea. For this, you will need quantification. You need to quantify your idea. So you really need to be able to understand and you really need to able to quantify your idea. As an example, let's say you are providing a specific service in hospital. And let's say you're providing there's one company, I guess, the UV, they help the system to nurse and the doctors to find the vein for the injections. And you need to understand that how long it takes the nurse or doctor that takes to find the vein and what are the consequences and if it is worth. You need to think that who are your clients. Your clients are not patients. Your clients are hospitals. Okay, so you need to understand how much hospital spends, and it might be very important for patient, but it might not be important for the hospital. So you need to understand if hospital is willing to pay for it. So when you are making an idea, you need to quantify it, how much you will sell it, how much it will reduce the time, how much efficiency it will create. So you need to create to absolutely quantify your business idea. It is absolutely essential. And then you need to test your idea. And it's not a hypothesis testing, it's another thing. We will talk about this when testing, that the decision process. And when you are testing your idea, you need to come with value. This is the second part. What is your value? Who gets value from you? That's an important thing to consider. You need to clarify your value. I would like to ask a question. Who wants to tell me? Let's give an example as a Facebook. Who is Facebook's client? Who wants to tell that? No one wants to answer? Somebody wants to answer? No one? Come on, it's an entrepreneurship class. You don't need to be shy. No one will answer, really? Wow, but chat? If somebody's answering chat, is that that? Social media users. Okay. Sorry. The question is, who is the client of Facebook? Who
Maybe
are the clients of it?
every person who has a phone, who have phone maybe,
Who?
who have a phone or computer.
Anyone. You mean the social media users, right? Anyone. Okay. Right? Okay. Actually, it is wrong because you get paid for the advertisement producers. So the clients are the companies. They want to advertise. Social media users are just an instrument. They are just assets. People are Facebook's asset, not client. So they need to maintain the asset. This is the reason they create the features. Their clients are advertisement companies, the companies they advertise, advertisement providers, like an Outbrain, right? This like these kind of companies. These are their clients actually. Advertisement platforms and advertisement the companies they advertise. These are their clients. Social media users are just assets. And you keep produce data and value as an asset. So you need to define your client very well in the beginning. Because if you will not really define your client very well, you will not be able to succeed. And we will go a little bit in this kind of the use cases soon. Okay, let's stop now. What's happening? Let's see. Well, I didn't understand what really happened. Let's see. Presentation left. Okay. Okay, now let's continue. Another thing is that you need to make a KYC process. Know your client. You need to know your client and you need to understand value transformation, or we call the value chain. Let's go within Facebook. You create a value for users, which is basically their asset, your asset, which are basically your asset. And which is also another thing that advertisement producers, right? These are your clients. So you create value for your assets and you create value for your clients, and your clients created for a value for them, which means that they're increasing their sales via social media. Another thing, they also try to understand their customers via social media behavior and reaction to their products. So the value is not only one dimensional. So you need to understand the dimensions of the values, which is value analytics. There's also says that the value analytics, and there's also quantification for that. Quantification is a different kind of things. Most of the time, the people don't get it, but it's seriously important. It's very, very important to understand quantification. We can quantify almost everything, including our feelings. I can create a formulation for love even. It's debatable how much it will work, how good it will work, but it's important to create a formulation and quantifications. We can make things more than everything. Okay, let's continue then. Value satisfaction, which is also another thing, but you need to understand this value and satisfaction, and we call them VSP. Which kind of values you create for the which component, which participant, and what is the satisfaction level and satisfaction rate for each participant, and what is the benefit. Sometimes you can create a lot benefit, but you cannot get enough satisfaction. So And there can be the different kind of values between the different components, between different participants. So if there's an asymmetry in VSP, you need to fix it. So VSP management or the VSP is something is very, very different. The value, satisfaction, and benefit. So this should be a little bit, not maybe exactly the same, but similar between the different participants. So you need to make a participant management, shareholder management. So as in continue from the Facebook, you need to provide them to your third parties. Some companies are buying API, by the way, from the Facebook. And the clients, they get the service, advertisement providers, end users, that you need to clarify all your participants, everyone who's in, and you need to analyze which kind of value they receive, which kind of satisfaction they receive, which kind of benefit they receive. People receive benefit to show their life, expose their life, and pretending as they're someone they want to be. This is their benefit in Facebook and social media. And connecting people. And your end users, I mean, your clients' benefits is basically selling their product and visibility. And your other service, there are some kind of companies they're buying API, and their benefits getting analytics, the data for the analytics, and creating information. But if there's a asymmetry, you need to figure it out in advance. Okay, and then you need to consider another thing about value, VSP. What your client says and what your client really receives and what your client does is not the same. I will give you an example. I'm in the board of one dating application. I'm providing service to one dating app. And most of the time when we look at men, and in the dating app, they say that I'm looking for a serious woman to have a serious relationship. But when we go to when you go to their preferences, we see that they're looking for hookup. So it's similar in the women too, but not so much. But for the men, it's mostly the same, the story. So if you ask them what you want, everyone will say that I want the love of my life and I want a serious relationship. But in fact, they want just to have a nice time. So it is similar for almost everything. So you need to understand, you need to know the data. You need to look at the data. So what your client says and what your client really wants are not the exact same thing most of the time. And most of the time, your client does not know what they really want. Remember Henry Ford's saying, right? If I will ask people what they want, probably they will tell me the faster horses. It doesn't work like that. You cannot be completely client-oriented company. If you will only follow what your client says, most of the time, most probably you might probably fail, and most probably you might be really face the bankruptcy. You cannot do that. Okay, let's continue now. The why, by the way. Why your client wants this. This is another thing. You cannot quantify why very easily. It's not hypothesis testing. There is some kind of causality testing you need to understand, but you also need to understand why your client wants this. And not necessarily one time, when your client wants something, it is not always necessarily creates a value or benefits. Sometimes they only want. And sometimes it's good to know what they want. Sometimes it's not good to what they want. You need to make a strategic decision, and it is more ODD than DDD, which means that it's more opinion-driven decision than data-driven decision. Okay, let's continue now about effects. Okay, MVP. Where is the true point in MVP? MVP, most of the time, I don't know, did you study MVP during the lessons? It's the full part of really an important part. And anything is not functional, it's not MVP. MVP should be usable, not reliable only, functional, reliable, and usable. If anything is not usable, it's not MVP at all. So if you build something is only functional, it's not MVP. It should be reliable plus usable. And when you build an MVP, another thing is that if you will try to stack and if you will try to build some sort of MVP, minimum viable product, if you will push to be perfect so much, most probably you will fail. So you need to test it in the market, and you need to get feedback loop feedback loop is important, and you need to also design your feedback loop. And you need to, it will also, MVP will also help you to categorize your customers. Which customer wants what, how. These are important things to consider. These are important things to understand. These are important things to really, really, really get it. Because MVP will give you testing opportunity. Don't forget that. Okay, power of quantification and testing. Do you know hypothesis testing? Okay, you need to ask these questions, because if you cannot read hypothesis testing, I'm not talking on the A/B testing, hypothesis testing, ANOVA, ANCOVA, MANOVA. There are many. There's 70, almost 78 different type of tests we are using now, by the way, in the system. You need to apply man-with naive testing. You need to use this correct testing for the situation. And sometimes you need to test twice. Client kappa, for example. You need to test twice, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. The same thing. Again and again. You need to understand, because 85% of hypothesis testings are wrong in the market. And type 3 and type 4 error, like I spoke with Dr. and Akush, most of the hypothesis testing gives type 3 and type 4 error, and type 3 and type 4 error is more difficult to detect than type 1 and type 2 error. Do you know what are the error types? Did you study about this? Type 1, type 2, type 3, and type 4 errors? Type 3 and type 4s are the hidden errors. It's not possible to detect via mathematical formulations. So it's more than false positive, false negative. You need to know that. So you need to quantify. And what you cannot deal without quantification. You cannot manage a startup. You cannot have an entrepreneurship without quantification. Even if you can manage, it means that it's mostly by chance. Okay, decision making. DDD or ODD? Data-driven decision or opinion-driven decision? Okay, what the guy you see is Peter Drucker. I guess you know him. And he has a very important saying that you cannot manage what you cannot measure. It's true. So you need to create, as an entrepreneur, you need to create KPI for everything. Efficiency, productivity, productive for your stuff, productive for yourself, growth, sales, sorry. And all the things you need to really, really, really create KPIs. You cannot, and this requires KPI engineering. You need to have someone who is very good in KPI and engineering and testing in the startups. And you need to decide, by the way, if you don't have someone like that, you can get a service. Sometimes you need to, by the way, we will go through when we are talking about the team building, you need to know which kind of things you will have in-house, which kind of things you will have in outsource. You need to decide. You cannot have everything when the team when they begin. Okay, so another thing is data will not tell you everything, and it can create an embedded distortion. Data have an embedded bias. You need to understand when you're transforming data to information, from information to knowledge, from knowledge to wisdom, there are always embedded biases. You need to understand the biases. Okay, what data tells you, data and fact. You need to understand that usually ideas talks, but facts whispers. So you need to get the whispers of the fact from the data. You need to understand what data tells you really, and data can lie to you. So you need to understand if the data tells the truth. Okay, team management, optimizations of optimization. For the team management, you need to understand that small is beautiful. So the ideal teams is around 8 to 9 people. If you're more than 10 people, it's difficult to manage. So if you're a startup, you need to understand the team should be minimum as possible. There's an optimum range, and you need to use leverages. And if the team is growing very rapidly, you can really lose the control, because with 8 people, you don't need vertical hierarchy. Okay, and then unfortunately, to say that, get this shit done, that's the most important thing to do this. So somebody need to do something. So you need to do that. In the end of the day, you need to do this and you need to commit. The commitment is important. Dedication is important. And you need to understand what to delegate and watch wisely. Who is doing what? So you need a very good operation manager. You need very good and COO or office manager or open manager. Somebody you need to be very pedantic and follow up everyone in the startups. So most of the time, the startups leaves the struggle from that situation. Somebody have to follow up. So following up and weekly meetings are very, very important. You need to list and you need to understand what had been done, what had not done, and why it's not done. And you need to take a responsibility and you need to hire smarter people than you. That's of course, but you need to hire people that tells you what to do. You cannot, in the startup and entrepreneurship project, you cannot hire people and tell them what to do. You need to hire someone to tell you what to do. If it is not otherwise around, actually, there it means that you're in trouble. Okay, the takeoff. Takeoff means that in the minute your MVP started to sell, in the minute you start to make 1 month, okay, your 1 month sales creates your 1 month expense. It's not a break even, okay? Which means the takeoff. Takeoff is different than break even. You need to know when you're taking off. And takeoffs are really, really important because which means that you are closing a chapter and you're starting a new chapter. So once you're taking off, you will need a roadmap. In advance, you need to understand what you will do. Will you take an investor? Will you go with your own sources? And when you will grow the company, what you will do? Would you like to IPO? Would you like to exit? Or would you like to continue to grow? Okay. You need to make your decision. You need to have a roadmap. Without a roadmap, you will get lost, most probably. And you need to understand, you need also the clean strategy. And without strategy, you're lost. And tactic is not strategy. Growing sales is a tactic. It's not a strategy. Growing sales or the selling, let's say, increasing sales in that specific market, but that specific things is a kind of a tactic. It's not a strategy. You need to have a clear strategy. And you need to create your milestones and you need to be clear with your strategy and you need to quantify your strategy and you need to measure your strategy. You need to evaluate your strategy. Okay, and let's go. I also need to know the alternatives. Okay, the next, growth management. Okay, good or bad, you need to grow, but you need to decide how to grow. You need to grow horizontal or vertical. You cannot go parallel growing. Parallel growing means that horizontal and vertical together at the same time, and it's very difficult and it might create serious problems. So sometimes companies are collapsed because of growth, by the way. And we miss probably pivot and preserve is another thing. You need to the testing only you can understand if you will pivot or preserve. By the way, I guess it's somewhere. Yeah, power of quantification, pivot and preserve. So you need to either pivot or preserve. It means that you need to either stick your strategy, techniques, or product, or you need to change it. But you need to make it clear hypothesis testing. Guys, if you don't know the very well the testing, hypothesis testing, A/B testing, ANOVA, and the testing concepts very well, it means that you might be a really big problem. So either you need to hire someone or you need to get service or you need to do that because you need to really test your every single thing. That's the scientific entrepreneurship. Okay, I want to go to some case studies. I guess you already know that Kodak was the one who invented first digital camera, 1976. And they are the one who suffered the most from the digital cameras because they had a very big comfort zone. They didn't want to create an alternative and kill their film market. But they made another thing smart. What Canon did, Canon shifted printer business after that. They understood their mistakes. In 1990s, they shifted mostly printer and scanner business because of that. So still we have a Kodak. Still they produce some services to Canon and to HP, Kodak, and they produce some things too, but they really messed a lot. They messed a lot. So, which is another good person, and Polaroid made the same thing, by the way. I guess you know that Polaroid photographs, the cameras, the 90s, and they think that okay, and they made a hypothesis testing in early stage. They made it. They said that okay, the people are wanting digital cameras or printing out. That's true. People are mostly taking pictures in order to print. They were not just taking pictures in that time. That's the reason the hypothesis testing actually diluted them. So it's another thing. That was a type 4 error. So the Polaroid still exists. They sell very extremely expensive cameras, and people are buying only for nostalgia. By the way, they could produce digital cameras and home photograph printers. They didn't do that because they think it's not really profitable. But sometimes even you think it is not necessary, which means that in order to take not to take a chance, in order to prevent potential problems, you do this product too, only for alternative, early alternatives. We call them early comers. You need to do this kind of things. But Apple actually killed with the camera systems, all of them. It take only 3 or 4 years. The same thing. Let's go to the BlackBerry too. You know that Apple killed BlackBerry and Nokia, but you need to understand they always tell to you about the BlackBerry and Nokia as a failure study, but in fact it is not. BlackBerry and Nokia are still in the business, but not in the phone business. BlackBerry turned to critical infrastructure business, and they're one of the biggest critical infrastructure company in the world. And Nokia is still providing service to mobile GSM operators and the companies and the mobile phones as a network provider. Most of the GSM operators are using Nokia infrastructure. They're providing service. So they only change their business lines. Facebook and Path probably saw that with the social media. Path made a very good and scientific study. They made a very deep study and they analyzed and they saw that anthropologically and sociologically, people can have maximum 50 friends. You cannot handle more than 50 friends. That's true, by the way. You cannot. Think about the people you talk, think about the people you go out, think about people you are in a social context, you meet, you care about, and they care about you. They're mostly around 50 people. But so, and they want to do something different than Facebook. They wanted to prioritize the social media users as a client, not as an advertiser. Advertisement. So they said, okay, no advertisement. People will pay. There will be no advertisement, and people will be very open. They will expose themselves. But they were wrong because people tell that they want to use social media to express themselves, express themselves, and connection. But in fact, it was not for the connection. It was pretending like someone they're not. They want to be. So actually, Path failed. In 2010, I guess Google wanted to acquire them in $100 million. In 2018, the company collapsed. Because again, you need to understand your client, and what your client says is not always what your client wants. And what your client wants always not the best thing or the most beneficial or valuable things. So you need to read your clients and you need to read the market. IBM and Apple, you know the story already. And IBM and Apple, IBM was the biggest computer producers, and in 1970s, they think that personal computer is not really thing, not marketable. And they missed the train. They missed it a lot. They missed very badly. because people started to want personal computer. Apple and Next. I don't know if you know Next. Anyone who know Next? It's a good example for okay. We have two types of entrepreneurship: intrapreneurship and extrapreneurship. Lisa project was in Apple. Lisa project was not very successful, but it also created MacBook background. So Steve Jobs took another team in a company, and they built Lisa project and an Apple, and it is an entrepreneurship. So entrepreneurship means that you get a new idea as a new product, new service in a company. There's a partial innovation in the company, partial entrepreneurship in the company, link the company, dependent on company, and use the company's sources. This is entrepreneurship. Extrapreneurship, you start a new page like Next. When actually they fired Steve Jobs from the Apple, he built Next, a new company. And then after he built from the part of the company, Pixar. And he started to get a service to provide service to Disney, and then Apple acquired them. There's a good example of extrapreneurship. So Steve Jobs actually is a good example for both entrepreneurship and extrapreneurship. Okay, I want to give you some other names: Mobileye, Palantir, and Getir in Turkey, and Nvidia, but I don't want to take you so much time because I want to talk to you a little bit how these companies did innovation and how they have different entrepreneurship studies. But maybe we can talk a bit more because I don't want to take you so much time, and I want to get mostly your questions. But in here, the Mobileye was a very small company. They were acquired by Intel, I guess $17 billion in 2017, I guess 16 or 17. Palantir understood and saw that the government, the Palantir's clients are mostly intelligence departments, CIA, Mossad, and NSA, and all of them. He saw the government needs. So again, anybody can be your client. It can be intelligence organization, it can be governmental entity, it can be people, it can be hospitals, it can be anyone. You need to understand who are your clients, and you need to know your clients' needs. And your clients are not necessarily always right, because in intelligence, if you're producing intelligence product, for example, if you're working in intelligence departments, if you are not working big five means the top 5 intelligence department, most of the intelligence organization, they don't know what they want. You need to manage them. So Palantir is providing good service to governmental entities. Getir, you know that, but you need to understand why it was very successful in Turkey, why it didn't work in Europe. Why Getir closed all its operations in Europe? What was the reason? I don't want to go through that because it's very deep subject, but most of the reason was the business structure, business organization was not really suitable like in Turkey. This is first. And secondly, optimization. You cannot grow so rapidly like that. And when you grow your cost too. So growth management is another thing, by the way. Nvidia goes with an high way, but by the way, you need to understand when Nvidia started, because they started for the hardware business, not software business, hardware business. And hardware is mostly related to low tech, not high tech. But they created a new thing, and they understood that CPU is ending, GPU and TPU is in the trend, and which is more used. That's true, by the way. There will be always a CPU, most probably, but it's really important to understand that where they understand the gap in the market. And now they really catched the vibe and the trend and their growth. Their growth is mostly based on the market because they understood that now currently every single and almost refrigerators even using the car almost. They produce many cars for everything. Soon washing machine, even dishwashers. Now only for the electric cars, EVs, but soon and everything. So Nvidia really catch to grow. Okay, I want to give you some advice. Do you know any of these books? I highly recommend you some of the books. Rework is very good. 0 to 1. It's actually an Israeli. I don't know if you ever heard this. 1 is bigger than 0. In Turkish, they say bir sıfırdan büyüktür. In it is originally it is a Hebrew, Israeli Hebrew's names. Echad yoter gadol me'efes. 1 is bigger than 0, which means that even you create a value, it's better than nothing. You need to create a value. So 0 to 1 is explaining to you exactly this philosophy. And smart, faster, better. That's the good Charles Dickens. And start with why. Then Simon Sinek is important. One time you try to make a decision and you try to understand the market shifting, you need to understand why client want this. Because hypothesis testing or any kind of testing or KPI or dashboard, ABIs will not give you the reason. You need to get the reason. Without getting an understanding reason, you will not be able to successful. Right. Okay, let's sum up. Okay, some statistic. Success rate of startup is around 10%. So which means that if you build a startup, your chance is around 10% to survey. It means that passing the next stage. But 20% when the people are not successful before, when you build a startup and you failed before, your success rate goes to 20% in your second experiment. In third, it goes well. But if you succeed first time and you go to the next one, the second one, your success rate is 30%. But twice failed people has more success rate than the previously succeeded people. So every failure you need to understand and take as a chance to failures too. Success and failure. And sometimes some success, especially chance-based successes or condition-based successes are problematic. So even when you are successful, you need to understand why you are successful. Okay, and then you need to, okay, let's take away. So I want to sum up in 4 items, bullet points. You need to accept power of data. Data is important. You need to read the data. But most importantly, you need to know how to read the data. And data will not tell you always the truth. So you need to get this inside of the data. Ideas talks, facts whispers. That's true. You need to follow the facts. And you need to check idea and facts relationships. Okay, mentor. You need mentors. You need mentor. Because mentor is not your friend. Mentor is not someone you learn from. Mentor is someone you will get vision, and during your learning process, you will get a second vision and will be able to see you with a different perspective. That's the what mentor does. So you need a mentor. And you have a symbiotic relationship with the mentor. You advance mentor, mentor advances you. And if a mentor will not advance you anymore, he is not your mentor anymore, and you need to go to the second stage. And mentors cannot solve your problem for you. They can only make you see the problem and create the solutions. By the way, I highly recommend you to read Polya. Okay, read Polya, How to Solve. It's a 1940s books, 1930s, 1940s, Hungarian mathematician. You need to understand there's a 4th stage of the solving any mathematical problems. Anyway, in the end of the experience is in the end of the you earn experience. You fail or not. In every entrepreneurship will give you an experience, and your experience is based for your both skills and vision. You develop your skills and visions based on your experiences. Okay, let's go to this. You need to understand, you need to ask as much as question you can. The questions are more important than us most of the time. Okay, any questions? Let's stop it by the way, then let's stop sharing.
Need to raise hand, Ingrid.
Sorry. Hi.
We need to. It's Effie. I'm not opening my camera because you will not recognize
Don't
me.
worry.
I shaved my head completely, so I look completely different. So I missed the first half of unfortunately, the first half of the lecture. And one technical question: are you sending over the presentation?
Yeah, of course. I will send you. So I will share the entire recording.
Okay. Second question is, a little bit more general, is given the AI revolution and the amazing advanced pace that the giants are, the steps they're taking towards, for example, models like O3 and beyond that, there's like it's more like a philosophical question that anything of what we are building and what we are doing, what would be the significance? What would be the advantage of the human mind in comparing to what we're gonna handle in the following coming years? I cannot really estimate, but obviously it looks that it all goes to a specific direction that the machine will rule at some point, and outperform anything that we are able to do, including in research domains.
Yeah, including research. So can you please rephrase the question again, please? I tried to.
So again, it's more a philosophical question. How we're gonna, you give a lot of important points about establishing a startup, and now
Yeah.
you're gonna make your way easier. And my question is how all this AI revolution is gonna be uh, either pushing all those points. Maybe you can give specific examples you think that the AI can be beneficial in the topics that you covered, or maybe they would be completely redundant at some point.
Oh,
If
yeah,
you
yeah.
can just refer to some,
Firstly-
specific
Yeah.
examples that you can think of.
Okay. Firstly, I think nobody knows the answer of these questions, but we know one thing. We are very far away from consciousness. Artificial intelligence is artificial, and it is an intelligence. And artificial intelligence can be better than organic intelligence in some point, which means that a machine can predict fraud much better than a human can. That's true, because that has intellect, which means that machine knows how to do very well, sometimes better than a human, and much in shorter term, and much efficient. But the problem is they don't know why they are doing. So there is no consciousness. There is no consciousness in it. And artificial intelligence coming to the point, it creates more demand than supply, which means that anytime more artificial intelligence comes, more demands coming. As an example, ChatGPT. We have now ChatGPT in our phone, and any client, anyone asking some questions to ChatGPT. Let's say they're trading an asset, why NVIDIA price are dropped in Nasdaq. And ChatGPT will give some information, good or bad. And the person will recognize he needs an indicator for himself. He needs a supportive tool for himself to understand or to predict better. So what he does, he buys it. So I think we are missing the power of AI demand side, pull and push effect. So most of the AI creates more demand than supply in the market. For example, NVIDIA. NVIDIA create more cards, and when they create more cards and more systems, now everything becomes smart. Not only smart mobile phones, we are now getting a smart refrigerator. For example, your system, Ramitrix, can be used in there too. You can say, for example, why? Because the person can say in he can say, because of what I'm buying, what is that risk I can get because what people buy as a food, what they consume, right? And then they automate what they are buying, and the artificial intelligence can tell them what is their, based on their diet, what is their the probability they will get diabetic, including the genetical factor. So when we produce more AI, it is not actually reducing our potential, it creates more demands and it creates more potentials. But in order to get there, companies need to have an infrastructure. That's the important thing. And the biggest infrastructure is trained and educated team. It is more important than assets. It's important than infrastructure, other things. Most of the companies are not renewing their R&D. That's the problematic situation. As in Remetrix, for example, Remetrix is a very good tool for risk management and insurance. Not really, actuary is a very good, but we can also utilize this for traffics too. Let's put the data in traffic. Let's write an algorithm. It will tell you, by the way, in if it is in the, let's say, in the summit, in the exit of the between the Netanya and Kufaron or Netanya and Tel Aviv, what will be the traffic jam predictability in which hour, or what is the probability of the traffic crashes? We can use this. What are the alternative ways? It can create an algorithm. So soon it will happen. The problem with the AI, people think AI is a kind of a threat or it will automate everything. It will not automate everything. For example, when it will automate all buses and trains, and maybe there's another thing. For example, United States, they're working a project, I guess Project Falcon or something, the name. They recognize training and pilot, a war pilot, fighter pilot, is much more expensive than training the building a plane, war fighter jets. So what they want to do, they want to use the usable remote fighter jets, because they don't want to lose any pilot. When you lose a jet, you mostly use your pilot too. So which means that
Tell
they
this to IDF.
Sorry?
Tell this to the IDF.
No, IDF already has this project. IDF is also aware of this project now. 4 years ago they started. And so it's already the thing that's the fact, that's the situation. So AI is bringing us more and more opportunity. The important thing is that how we will see that and how we will fill the gap. And another problem is corporations, because it's not possible to provide everything from the company, and most of the companies can work together, but even most of the time the companies doesn't know how to work together. It's ego things started. So that's the most important problem. But what I see that I guess AI will revolutionize people's daily life and demands, because now it come to the point, I saw that people are asking when they're having a date, for example, they're asking to AI, they are giving the people a job or blah blah blah, and saying that if he is suitable to me, and they accept that, and they expect that AI will tell if the man or woman is suitable that's to you or not. It will create extremely dummy people. That's another problem. But how it will influence, I guess, it's a good example here. Daron Ecemoğlu is also my PhD thesis is a little bit related to him. I created a twilight theory in my PhD thesis. That the Power and Progress is his last book. I agree, I disagree at some point, but I want to say that there's something. We are getting at some two differentiation. 85% of the people they are working for Google, Facebook, Meta, or other companies, Samsung. The 85% of people are coming from pretty wealthy families and very well-educated families. Look at the founders. Jeff Bezos. He studied in Princeton, and he's coming from the very well-off family, very rich family. Mark Zuckerberg. He's coming from a very rich family. When he was 5 or 6 years old, he was getting a private coding lessons. Builders of the Facebook, their parents are professors, physics professors. Steve Jobs, Bill Gates' mother was an IBM's board member, and his first business was from the IBM for IBM. So you need to understand. We need to understand, first of all, that it's not a coincidence. And technology is bringing inequality, cumulative inequality. And unfortunately, AI will bring the kind of inequality that most of the people, or many people, will get better education, better upbringing, better background, better connection, better networking. And then what will happen then? And some people will live in this, unfortunately, the problematic situation. This will be inequality, and it will be with the companies too, unfortunately. It will become more difficult. Look at Facebook. If Mark Zuckerberg wouldn't be Harvard student, do you think that he will be able to get this fund? He got it only because of he was in Harvard. Of course, what he did is very valuable, but listen, now you can learn anything from the internet, from the open sources. Let's say you buy a bit. There's a MOOC also, massive open online courses. You can learn anything that you can learn from Harvard, Yale, or Princeton. But why people are going to Harvard still? Because of networking. That's another part. So AI will revolutionize many things, including agriculture, but it will create a much more serious problem. You know that. For example, now in agriculture, there is a full automatic agriculture. We can utilize robots much more. It will create the efficiency 80%. It will boost, but still foods are very expensive. Why? Because now we didn't completely utilize it, but again, the problem is, and now how to explain that the growing the same vegetable will be like $5. Let's take an Israeli company, BOB. They produce, I want to show you now. I will tell you how it will influence, okay? Okay. And there's the one, BOB, the company, which is an amazing company. It's an Israeli company. And what they do is very extremely smart, by the way. I will share my screen with you. This is the perfect answer of your questions, I guess. It's not this one.
You're referring to High Bob or
No. I'm BOB.
BOB?
Do you see that? That guys produce honey in the lab. Honey in the lab. Like Remilk. Remilk is producing, it's also another Israeli company. They produce milk in the lab. Which means, you know how much it is expensive, you know, from the north, Nazareth and all the north, Migdal Emek or Emek Israel. It's difficult to produce milk. And you need to get a lot of cows. You need to expend a lot of water, a lot of expenses. You produce milk in the laboratory. You can either produce cow milk, sheep milk, goat milk, less lactose. You can arrange the fat, which doesn't mean only meat. It means that you will completely get much cheaper and better supply for cheese and yogurts and all the industries, which means that it will kill in the third world countries traditional milk industry. It will revolutionize it. It's serious. But how they did it with AI, of course. And
This
this
is
will,
an Israeli company, Imre.
yeah, Remilk is an Israeli company. They're in, they were in close to Haifa. Where are they now? Let's see. They're close to Haifa. In the past, they were close to Haifa, but I guess now they're in probably in the close to their office is in Tel Aviv, but their lab is in Haifa, I guess. Even BOB isn't too. It means that they will produce the they're already producing bee without bees. They're producing all the honey without bees, which means that they will be able to produce honey, let's say $2 a big kilo or $1, and traditional bees, the traditional ones, will be, let's say, $50. So which one people will buy? They also provide, by the way, pollination, and which is an amazing thing. Look at the red milk industry. Which means that they all, by the way, they already succeeded to produce mother milk. Mother milk. So, which is a seriously revolutionary things. Look at that. This is sustainable, more nutrition, and they can produce the milk for the people they have allergy to milk. Another thing is also parve milk. They produce the parve milk. So that's things, and there will be a lot of things. So they will sell the 1 liter of the milk is maybe 3 cents, and an ordinary person, ordinary third world country will produce $10 till because less they produce, it will be more expensive. What will happen then? So it will create more and more inequality. So having it, this is another part we didn't talk about. This entrepreneurship in different countries, there are different challenges. Entrepreneurship in a high taxation country is very difficult. Entrepreneurship in kind of an environment, it will be much more difficult. In Turkey, entrepreneurship is extremely difficult. Firstly, government kills you because of the taxation, and secondly, it's very difficult. People don't want to buy. They don't want to buy your service mostly because they prefer the relationship. Another thing is there's a lot of corruption. Think about every detail. And it's not easy in France because in France, there's another thing, by the way. Anyone, you need to pay more taxation, people will move. Most of the innovative companies are moving to United States and the tax-free states. So I guess as an answer, I'm thinking, I don't know, nobody knows what will happen with AI, but I know one thing as a fact. It provides more demand. More people use AI, high-tech industry grow more. It creates more demand. But again, it also creates instability and it creates more inequality. Now, currently, there are 1,200 efficient venture capitals. They have full of money, a lot of money in the market. And another thing is that you need to be part of this. Because when you go to get a venture capital, when you get an investor from the venture capital, you become a part of an ecosystem. Because they find you also already clients, because the same venture capital invested in a bank. So when you're at a company, you provide a banking solution or fraud solution, you already have 50 different clients suddenly. And they grow you. So this is serious, I guess, the asymmetry in the system, inequality. That's what I'm thinking. I don't know if the answer satisfied you, but this is what I'm thinking. I don't know, nobody knows what will happen with AI, but we all know it grows the cake. It grows the cake, and cake is keep growing exponentially. The question is how we will take a part from this cake. That's the biggest question.
Very simple.
Welcome. Any questions, guys?
Hocam, can I ask something?
Of course, yes, please.
Firstly, I'm an economic student, and my question is,
Sorry, what student? Which student? Economic. Okay.
Yes. What do you think is the most important factor in choosing the best econometric method for data-driven decisions?
It depends on your decision. It depends on the question. There's no one specific econometric case, but also you know that there's a difference between econometrics and data science. What is the difference between econometrics and data science?
I ask about the econometric parts.
Oh, but I'm telling you what is the difference. Econometrics are more rigid, okay? Econometrics are more scientific. And data science, according to econometrics, less scientific because, for example, if there's a none or null data, econometrics you cannot deal with non-data, right? Null data. It means that, but data science is more estimation decision driven. So econometrics is important, methodology is more important, data science is result is more important, accuracy is more important. In econometrics, you cannot utilize econometrics always for economical decisions because there are always lack of data. But it depends on the situation. Sometimes you need to use regression. Sometimes you need to use random forest. Sometimes you need to know actually the data characteristic. And one of them, the biggest important thing is if data is consistent, if data is distributing normally, how data is distributing, what is the frequency, and what is the data systems, data structure, and the relationship to data. But first, you need to create information from the data. Then you can understand. Reading data is a kind of an art. I highly recommend you. I highly recommend you that book, which will help you more. David Spiegelhardt. I don't know if you know that one. Did they teach you? Did they give that? The Art of Statistics. It's very good. How to learn from data. That's an amazing book. I recommend you that book. It's really great book. It will help you a lot. It will help you a lot.
Can you pose it in front of the camera just one time so I can take a screenshot?
Of course, of course, of course.
Yeah,
That
one second.
I can send you also from the WhatsApp too.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Of course. It will help you for the modeling, and it will give you the and then also Scott Page's model thinker is good too. Scott Page. After you read The Art of Statistics, I recommend that book too, guys. And Udaya Pearl, by the way, Book of Why, of course, is good, but this book too, The Model Thinker, Scott Page. It's not a mathematical thing. It's a very good book. I highly recommend you that book too. So,
Hocam, can you send these books?
Sorry?
Can you send these books name?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, thank you.
One of them is The Art of Statistics. I'm writing from the chat, The Art of Statistics. Another is Model Thinker. Okay. So, as an answer of your questions, there is no one single correct system, methodology, or model for the questions. So, but when you are deciding about economics, you need to understand economics includes people. And because of that, and people are not logical. So the same thing happens on the same, let's say, when the inflation is increasing in Italy and in Turkey, it's not the same. It's not always only about the money. Of course, it's related to monetary policy, but you cannot explain always the same. So there are different ways. I recommend you to read. Have you ever heard or did they teach Douglas North? Okay. Douglas North studies will help you a lot to understand the concept, especially some of his books. I can give you in private, I can write that. But most of the time it's important. You need to understand firstly what econometrics is. Their econometrics was not exist before 1930. It was started in 1930 by Hicks, Keynes student. Kahn is also pioneer. Kahn and Hicks, and especially Kahn. So econometrics is still debatable. So for econometrics, usually econometrics, they teach us only the Gujarat. They start with the Gujarat in green as a kind of factor, but you need to know the more than this because it doesn't go with the recreation. But I recommend you to get interpolation and extrapolation in advanced interpolation and extrapolation studies. It will help you to get all the related concepts. Okay, any questions, guys?
Hocam, thank you.
Of course, my pleasure. Any more questions?
Can I ask something?
Yeah, of course.
Can you tell us more about the company named Palantir? Actually, I have been hearing a lot about this company lately because I have researched about the AI programs that business development process, and they have products like Gotham and Foundry. But when I asked people who works for with data, uh, I think like the Palantir is not just for these systems. There's something big in behind of the scene, I guess.
Yeah, Palantir is providing deep services to understanding human behavior, and they have a lab. And Palantir is usually they build it for the understanding also the terror and terrorist organizations, how the terrorists are thinking, preventing potential terror attacks. So it has very deep studies and they're very revolutionary. And they also provide different services to the different different startups too. Okay, for
They for government or some legal or illegal organizations, maybe.
all of them the government. Yeah, the 80, 85 or 90% of the clients of the Palantir is government.
Wow, too much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Of course. But it's also important to know that because I work for a lot of government projects, I want to say you one thing. Governments has a lot of data, mass data. The biggest problem of the government is processing and understanding from the data. So it's a big market. It's a serious market.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions, guys, before we finish? If you have any other questions, you're more than welcome. I would like to answer. No questions? Okay, I hope it was good and fun. I hope you liked the journey. Dr. Antakush, I guess I will receive the recording, right?
Yeah, I am with you. We are recording.
Okay, good. I will receive it, I guess. So if you don't have any questions, we can finalize here. I don't want to take your time, especially on Friday. But if you have any other questions, you're more than welcome to reach me or ask questions. Okay. Any questions, guys? Okay, no questions. Good. So we are finishing or what we're doing?
We can finish, hocam, if no
Oh,
question, there is no
don't have
question.
any, there's no questions.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for your effort and thank you the informations that you give us.
I'm very well, yes. Also, guys, if there is any other thing, you can please do not hesitate to don't hesitate to contact me. And I wish the best on your journey. And I hope everything will be good. Bye. Thank you very much.
So can you share your mail address in text box, or how can we contact with you if we have a question?
Of course. Wonderful. I'm sharing my private email. That's my email. And you can reach me from any other platforms too. But about the data science, again, it's I recommend you, by the way, go to and talk to previous students too, graduate students. And secondly, I recommend you to go to the internship. Data science is being learned on the field, unfortunately. That's like every science. So I recommend you go to the field, and if you need another thing, you need really help for internship. We are starting for this program soon at the TED University. So please let me know if you need an internship or anything. You're more than welcome. I would love to help you. And I guess I have a TED email too, but I will give it on my iCloud. Anytime you need anything, please let me know that. Okay? Thank you very much, guys. Have a beautiful weekend.
Thank you, hocam. It's a very pleasure to meet you.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you, hocam.
Bye. I will be very appreciated if I will receive the recording.
Okay, I will share, hocam.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day. Bye.